Okay, so I'm going to start this off with an apology for pronunciation, but I'm going to do my best here. Joko Anwar, maybe, I think?
I would say it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anytime I see that, Anwar, I
Yeah.
think of Blood Diner, Uncle Anwar.
Oh.
Yeah. So, this is a director that we have actually watched quite a few movies from.
Yeah.
And, of the Indonesian directors out there, this would definitely be the most prominent and most well-known and the best one that I'm aware of. I'm sure, anybody in Indonesia can educate us on who are the big Indonesian horror directors. But when I was looking through his filmography, I was like, oh, wow. Like, these are the majority of the big titles from Indonesia that I've watched. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if his films get more American play than others, right? Maybe for some reason he gets movies over here more than other directors do, and that's why I'm more familiar with his films.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pretty surprised when I looked, because I was like, oh, I didn't even realize the same guy did the majority of these like bigger titles. If I was to name all the Indonesian horror films that I really enjoyed, most of them would be his. So it's kind of wild to me. So when I saw he was doing a show on Netflix here, I was like, oh, wow, that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. So this is an anthology series. We're going to be talking about each episode individually. Starting here with episode 1, Old House. And we have watched 2 episodes so far of the 7. So we have not watched all of them, but we're here to, I guess because this is the first video, if you're just here to know our thoughts on the show as a whole, I can't give them to you. But thus far, after 2 episodes, I 100% think it's worth your time. If you're an anthology horror fan and you want to see something, unique, because while I think the tales so far, the 2 that we've gotten, they have these kind of like classic parameters that we're used to seeing, but they have a good unique vision to them. And starting with this episode, Old House, we have a guy who is a taxi driver, which is ironic because the next episode talks about a taxi driver. And I was like, I gotta confirm, it's not the same guy, but I just found that weird. So far, all of these have taken place in Jakarta. We know because the 3rd episode started to play, and it said Jakarta as well. So this one was 2022, next one was 2024, and the next one was like 2015, I think. So we're jumping all over the place, but it is in the same place, which is the capital of Indonesia, which I learned from The Last of Us, the television show. But what do you think of Old House? I mean, before I get into any more.
I like it. So far, I think a lot of anthologies kind of do this, and I'm a fan of it, but they're sort of these like mini morality tales.
Oh, sure.
And I think with this one, I think it's a great little like message about how you treat your parents and like the elderly in general, but also about like rich people being greedy.
Sure. Sure.
I thought it was good. I think that, there's some CG in this that I wasn't maybe the biggest fan of, but I thought it looked pretty crazy. Like the concept of it. Conceptually it was cool. I just didn't really care for how it looked. But there's also some really cool lighting in this. There's these hoods that people wear that have like red LED lights around.
Reminded me a lot of the Squid Game.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that, but that's like the imagery because of like the circles and the triangles.
Yeah.
But this is more, I don't know, like they're at a rave.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I think, they're in some dark tunnels and stuff, so it's very, red lighting, red LED lighting, and I thought all of that looked really cool. And I think the pacing's good. One of the things I like about anthologies in general is that, all the stories are pretty short and sweet.
Yeah.
And I think that, for this episode, it felt like it moved right along. It hit all the story beats, and I was really satisfied with how it ended, too.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of story that an American show would try to make into, a full season, right?
Yeah,
I swear with, American Horror Story or something would try to stretch this out into, 13 episodes. Mm-hmm. And it would just become ridiculous. Yeah. And you're right, it is short and sweet. And horror is typically best in small bursts because it's very difficult to retain tension and intrigue and mystery in a horror setting for longer than a certain amount of time. It's not always that way. There are shows, there are movies that have been able to be longer and be successful.
Yeah.
But for the most part, horror is best when it is shorter, and I think this is why horror is the only genre that really does anthologies. Right? Mm-hmm. Have there been drama anthology movies? Yes. How many? Very few. Mm-hmm. Very, very few. Compared to horror does tons and tons of them, right? Comedy, same thing. I've seen a few. National Lampoons. There was one with The 7 Deadly Sins or something. It was a comedy with Andrew Dice Clay. I can't remember what it was called. I can remember a few, Amazon Women on the Moon. There's some, but they're so rare. As to where with horror, there's tons of horror anthology series. How many anthology series are there for comedy? How many anthology series are there for drama?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know any television series outside of horror and science fiction. So genre stuff. That it just doesn't work because it's just not that interesting to get 20-minute little shorts. You need more time to flesh those things out as to where I guess these ideas are more confined.
I think what would work, and this maybe has been done, but horror anthologies also usually have this air of mystery to them.
Yeah.
So a mystery anthology series I think would work really well, but that's kind of part of the appeal is that you set up something that then does get resolved by the end of it. There's some cause and effect type of thing that happens in the story.
Well, I think the show that paved the way for this is obviously The Twilight Zone.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that mystery that you can build every episode and start fresh in the next one. You're not building to anything. You start it and end it all in one go. And then next episode, same thing, and you really get to have a lot of fun exploring so many different types of stories in one show. But I just don't think that works in a comedy setting, in a drama setting.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't see that working. You kind of get it sort of with certain sitcoms or Simpsons episodes, right? It's everything's kind of a reset button. Nothing when you have those kinds of shows that don't have a through line where the narrative doesn't stretch out over every episode. It's the last episode basically didn't happen. It's just those characters that you're familiar with put into a new situation, but the kids have been 10 for 35 years now, you know what I mean? So anyway, which you can do with cartoons. You can't do with real life anyways. Okay, we're not going to do this every episode. Every episode from here, we're just talking about anthologies.
Yeah.
As far as this episode goes, he has his ability, so spoilers for this episode if you haven't seen it. He goes to, the way it starts is he's, and bear with us. We watched this episode like a week ago.
We did.
We meant to get to this one, but the next one will be fresh on. We literally just watched it. Anyway, so he is driving this nurse to a retirement home, and he's like asking her about like the place, and she's like immediately like, do not bring her here. And this is where you're saying it's like it's the morality tale. It's her hitting him hard with like, don't drop her off here. Don't do this to her. Trust me. You should take care of her. That's your responsibility. Which, you know, I think that's the main thing to talk about here with this episode is like your thoughts on taking care of your parents if they deserve it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, certain parents, no. Of course. If your parents were garbage to you and, like, abandoned you and had nothing, it's up to you. I mean, if you're somebody who's like, fuck it, I don't care. My mom treated me like shit. She's still my mom. Then I can, you know. Yeah. Good for you. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying, I understand why someone would be like, my parents shit. I'm not fucking taking care of her. My mom was a drug addict my whole life, you know what I mean? So, like, but if your parents were great to you, and you had that kind of, like, idealistic childhood, where they gave you everything, you wanted for nothing, should you take care of them? Yes. I mean, if you don't, that's your own deal, but in my own personal opinion, will I take care of my father when he starts to decline and not be able to take care of himself? If I can. Yes, of course, in every way that I can. You know, I should say in every way that I can. Yeah. Right? If I genuinely feel like I cannot take care of him in a way that he needs, like I'm lacking in the ability to do so, like he needs help beyond my capabilities, where he has some kind of ailment where I'm like, okay, he's not thriving with me. I'm limited by my resources or by my knowledge or by whatever, then I would have to do what I have to do. But if I have enough resources and I can, of course, till the bitter end.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there are some medical conditions that people develop as they age that are really difficult to treat at home or very, very expensive to treat at home. Yeah. Like you need unless you're like a nurse or a medical person, you need to hire one. And so that can get really costly, of course, compared to maybe putting them somewhere where they will get that medical treatment, like included in like a rent, you know, kind of fee. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like if you have a bad relationship with your parents, I don't think you owe them anything. But if you have a good relationship with them, whether or not they gave you like an amazing childhood, but just you have a good working relationship with them, then I do think it's something that, I mean, yeah, I would do it. Like, I would definitely take care of my mom. Like, I have no question about that, because it is kind of this, like, you know, you come into the world as an infant and you're helpless and your parent takes care of you and raises you. And then as we age, we go into that state again where we become maybe more helpless and frail and like we need help. So I do think that like if you have children, that's a big reason why people want to have kids, is so A, they're not alone at the end of their lives, but also that they have somebody to help take care of them, because it's really hard, you know, when you get to a certain age. And that's not the case for everybody. There's definitely people that live up until the very end and they're like totally independent, like totally fine. Yeah. And that's what we all want to happen to us, of course, you know, but for a lot of people, whether it's mental health or physical health, like something starts declining and you do need more assistance. And I think that in general, we've talked about this in other reviews in various movies, but I think our society in general really loves to discard the elderly. I think that like for men and women, it's like people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with so many aspects of getting old. And it's like looking at old people, being around old people, like it's offensive and like gross. And I think that's so messed up, because it's such a privilege to be able to get to that age, you know, like, and it's something that I think we, you know, not a blanket term of like everyone, you should respect all of your elders, because there's assholes that are old too, you know. Yeah. But just in the same way that you wouldn't treat children horribly, you know, out the gate, like I feel like you should extend that to elderly. But in this case, though, for him, his mom has, she has the onset of dementia happening, which can be really hard to manage. And she does, unfortunately, put their kid in extreme danger. I mean, he is he should have died.
Oh my God.
It's crazy that the mom even caught him.
It's such a tense scene.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the great things and what I really love about foreign films and foreign cinema and television, I haven't watched much foreign television, to be honest. It's not something that we typically come across outside of maybe a few Japanese horror shows. Or just Asian horror shows in general, like Sweet Home, and we've watched a few. The new Parasite show, which we still haven't finished. But the great thing about foreign cinema for me is that American cinema typically handles kids in movies with kid gloves.
Yeah.
And it's pretty rare you get a kid death.
Yeah.
And with foreign cinema, ooh, man, all bets
totally
are off.
happen.
It's like 50-50.
Yeah.
Which I love. I don't need the kid to die every time.
No, of course not.
But I do need to believe the threat is there.
Yeah, it only works if it's an actual threat. Otherwise, it's all false promises or an empty whatever that equivalent is for threat.
Yeah, so it's when that scene was happening. When she puts him out on the balcony. And I'm just like, this kid could die.
Yeah.
And so when she's running around, the time's ticking. I felt every second when she was putting him in that chair. And then when they were freaking out and we cut away from that scene, when I couldn't see, when my eyes weren't on the kid anymore. Yeah. Every second up until the kid was caught.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
It's awful.
It's such a great moment because I literally genuinely believed that this kid could die.
Yeah.
And if I was watching an American show, I just wouldn't have felt that tense. I would have felt some tension.
Sure.
Because I'd be like, well, it might be that one time where they don't. But with these shows, it's like, dude, this kid, flip a coin.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so I think that given that happens, that his mom does put him at risk, and she's not malicious or anything.
No.
She's just forgetful. She's just in another place kind of. And so I think it does make sense that he would be like, we have a small kid, we can't leave. They literally turn their back on her for not even a minute kind of a thing. So what I was going to say though is just, I think that it makes sense for him to put her into some kind of assisted living facility, but based on what this lady tells him at the beginning. Yeah. And then also when he gets there, there's a guy that's like, don't do it. It's a mistake. So I feel
there's red flags everywhere.
Yeah, the red flags would be go somewhere else. Yes, you might need help with your mom, but that's not this place. It's way too good to be true.
So, okay. In his defense, there's a few things there. Number one, the thing I was going to say is his wife, he's already on board with getting her in there before she does the kid thing.
Yeah.
And it's the wife who's like, that's your mom.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Promise me you won't put her in there. And then she does that, which then gets the wife sort of on board. Okay, she almost killed my kid.
Sure.
That's going to make any mom go, okay, maybe she's got to go. But they're poor.
Yeah, and that's why it's... Yeah.
This isn't a country where there's any kind of assisted facility where they're going to be like, oh, the state will just pay for it. No. They just die in the street. Right? So he has this opportunity to put her in this place. And he's already had his wife be like, this is morally incorrect. You shouldn't be doing this. The woman who he gets the information from in the beginning is basically just giving him the same spiel his wife did. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. It's your mom. Right? So he's already broken through that barrier.
Yeah.
Right? So that woman and his wife, you can just put into one voice in his head of okay, she almost killed my kid. I'm done with it. Right? Then the next guy that he runs into, that's where he, once again, has to be fighting against that. But he's just hearing it from it's a stand-in for his emotion.
Yeah.
Where he's like, even though I know this is probably what's best right now, this guy is my inner monologue, right? Without it having it. But it's another red flag that he's looking past, because he's like, I can't take her somewhere else.
Yeah.
There isn't anywhere else. This is the best place around, right? There's other ones he can't afford, and they're not even as good. This place is like, we're going to sponsor it. It's free to you.
Right.
We're going to take your mom. She's going to have a better life. And he's just like, I know you guys are telling me all this, but you don't seem to understand my situation. My kid almost just died.
Yeah.
So I get where he's coming from. But my God, I mean, he goes home that night. And that whole scene where he leaves her and she comes out and she's like, I can't wait to work here.
Oh,
and he's just
so
like,
sad.
you're actually going to be staying here.
Oh my God. And she's like begging him to stay.
Literally chases him outside as he drives away.
So
that scene
sad.
is brutal.
Yeah, because she's such, she is very childlike. She's very like just openly trusting of him and everything. So, but to his defense, like I totally agree. Like I'm not necessarily critiquing him in a huge way because of everything you just said. Like it does make complete sense for him to do this, and the only reason I'm telling him not to is because I'm a viewer and I'm like, I know that this is a horror anthology. But in his defense too, like he doesn't even last the night. He literally is like, I made a mistake. Like this is wrong, because he has a nightmare, his
nightmare,
which
her
is
arm getting cut off,
definitely
she's
prophetic.
like, I'm so happy here, thank you.
Yeah, so scary. And so he goes back, to take her out, which, like, of course,
it's so sarcastic. That's what I love about the dream.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so great here, isn't it wonderful?
Yeah,
I'm just
like,
getting my arm cut off and tortured.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then, when he goes back and he's like, I'm going to get her, like, I'm just going to take my mom back, and he walks in on that, like, party of a bunch of young people. Yeah. I love that setup. I think that's really cool, because you're like, okay, I think these old people are turning young somehow.
And this reminded you, and you mentioned this, and I agree with you. I don't remember. The title might be coming back to me, but the second string of Into the Blumhouse, or Welcome to the Blumhouse, I think that's what it was called. They had a string of films. They had year one, which was 4 films, and then year 2, which was 4 films as well. And one of them was something like this, where an old woman went to an old person's facility, and they were young for the night.
Yeah, that's like their thing.
Bingo Hell was one of the titles. I remember that. I'm gonna try to remember the title while you're talking.
Yeah, it's similar to that, but it's a cool premise. And it's also just a great setup, because he's like, who are these people? Like, why are they here? And, the lady that works there, like, her trying to just kind of smooth it over and be like, no, like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, we just calmed her down. If you go see her now, it's going to, like, undo everything. Yeah. Like, this happens to everyone on the first night. And I love that he's just, like, kind of up until the very last moment, when I think he pretty much decides, like, I'm just going to sneak back in, basically. But he's like, no, like, I want to see my mom. And she's just, like, both of them are very stubborn. And then he agrees to leave, and, and then is like, no, never mind. Like, I'm going to go back and get her. So I love that happens.
And speaking of the Twilight Zone, I mean, there's the episode, or I don't remember if it's an actual episode of the show, because I know they remade a bunch of episodes in the Twilight Zone movie. But the 80s movie, there was an anthology segment within that. I don't remember if it was a remake from a thing, but it was called Kick the Can or something. And it's a bunch of old people who, like, go out and be young for the night. I mean, this is a story as old as time, right?
Wasn't
like,
it?
Everybody who's old
wants to be young.
Wants to be young again. Of course, I'm only 42, but fuck, I would, I wouldn't kill, but I would do a lot to be 25 again. Of course.
Wasn't it called The Mansion? Maybe? No?
No.
I don't know, I thought it was The Mansion.
No, The Oracle was like one thing came into my mind. That ain't it either, but I think it is the something. Doesn't matter.
Anyway, so there's a lot of tension too when he sneaks back in, because there's like a bell chiming, and he follows one guy, or he comes across these people walking down a hall, and he's like eavesdropping on them, and he like ducks into a room, and it turns out to be the guy's room. So he like quickly hides in this armoire.
Yeah, some kind of closet.
And, or wardrobe.
Yeah.
And so I like that.
And he finds Narnia.
He does find Narnia. It's really tense. The guy walks over and opens it, and there's a secret passageway inside the wardrobe.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky that he just so happened to be right there.
He would have never
found that area.
like the hidden, yeah.
But that's how you got to do it in these, hour-long shows.
Totally fine. That does not bother me.
He goes down there a little too quick. I would have definitely let a little more time pass before I tried to press on that and go down.
Yeah, I feel like
that guy would have hurt him.
The light, the sound, all of that.
It doesn't matter. But it's a short show, so you got to get it moving.
Although, to be fair, too, the way their hoods are designed are kind of like, they kind of like come out and like
sure, they'll block
like
light, but not sound.
Not sound, but
sound
I feel like he
wouldn't
wouldn't necessarily have. Yeah, but there would be a shadow, so that would be in front of him.
I mean, it's a fair point with the light. I just think with the sound, doesn't matter. That's a silly point, but it's fun to talk about. So he goes down there, and this is when we're introduced to these fucking whatever the hell these things, these beings are on the wall.
They're like gross demon babies.
They're something. I don't know.
I wonder if they're like an actual.
Oh, yeah.
Like mythological folklore creature from Indonesia. I would be really curious.
Or somewhere else, yeah.
Or somewhere else, but I would guess it would be Indonesian. But, like, I've never seen anything like those things before. So that's why I really liked, like, what they are and what they do.
Yeah.
Before we get there, though, there's also... he goes into this room where he finds this young guy that's, like, chained up. It's the guy that he saw earlier. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I can't get you out, like, they're coming. Yeah.
He hangs from the bottom of the friggin' bed.
And he holds on for so long. Like, even after when they get into that giant room and they're all turned away from him.
For some reason he keeps hanging.
He's still holding on. So crazy.
Yeah, even Max Cady in Cape Fear, he belts himself up into the car.
Sure.
Because you can't hold on. Although, I always laugh when people do that in movies because all it takes is one pothole, one speed bump.
Oh my God.
And you're dead.
You're so
right?
dead, yeah.
Like anything goes under the car, you're driving like that. That would work if the guy was in like a lifted truck and you were at least fucking 3 feet off the ground. But when you're this close to the ground and you can see their back is like this close, dude, literally like one tire tread off of a truck would knock you off and kill you. Like, that's always so silly in films when they do that. Anyway, this guy's not under a car, he's under a cart. But yeah, him being able to hold up his weight like that, try it. Try holding on to something with your legs and your body, complete plank, like this, holding on with your arms, full weight of your body for and not making any sound.
Yeah,
holding
not
it, and
grunting.
then when everyone turns their back, you just are like, nah. I'm just gonna keep holding.
That was really funny. I'm
just gonna get an extra pump in
himself, but
anyway, that's funny.
Those creatures, I do like that we get to see what happens too. Like, it's not just what the hell are those things? Like, we see that it's a young, a child and a parent, and those gross finger things that suck the life out of one and give it to the other. And it's messed up. It's really messed up.
Yeah, and then we don't need to spend too much time more talking about this, but we meet the hell are those things called? The back bent freaking
I don't know. I don't remember what they were called. I keep wanting to call them
Forsaken or something.
The unborn. And I'm they're not unborn.
No, it's not I would know it if I heard it.
Impure? No.
But yeah, it's funny in these shows or movies, they always the whole back bent over thing. It's amount creepy. Of times that we've seen that at this point.
I like it. It's so unnatural because it's nobody.
I get
not many
that,
people
but
can do that. I should say.
At what point does that get old? I mean, how many times have we seen it?
We've seen it a lot, but it doesn't ever really fail to stop being creepy to me.
Yeah.
But we get to see what they are. So
the Banished.
Yeah, the Banished. So that's when one of them is unwilling. If the child is unwilling to give his life, to the parent,
they become the
then they both become that. So, and that's pretty messed up because it's like, yeah, well, I could turn into this monster, or I could, I guess, let my mom be young again, like. And they're kind of being hypnotized, or
the Whisperer.
Yeah, they're being manipulated for sure. So they're not like doing it 100% of their free will, I would say, but it still works.
Your mom gave up her life for you. Now it's your time. This is not why we have kids.
Which is also stupid because they're only like in their 30s or 40s or whatever, and it's like, but the parent lives until.
Sure, you have to give up your life even though they got to live a full one.
That's it. Yeah.
No, of course it's bullshit. I did not have my kids so that they can give me their youth when they get to a certain age. I didn't give them life to take it. That was not my intention. I gave them life to live their life. Right? That was the whole reason I wanted kids, is so that they could have their own life, and that we could have a bond and a thing, and I could help them have a better life than I did. And I feel like I've accomplished that so far, and when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And if I had the option to take their life so I could live longer, 100% for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, even though in this they're like, you never know until you're like facing death what you do. Bullshit. I would not take my kid's life for my own. That is just not me in the slightest.
Well,
hell no.
And what's great about this one too is that, like, his mom, the only reason they want her is because she's a cook. Like, so everybody that's there that's taking the life of their kids, aside from this other guy who was also kind of like, his mom did something, I don't remember.
She was a cleaner.
Yeah.
She's like a maid. She's
right.
going to be one of them.
Everyone else is wealthy. So all of them, and it's
they
like,
just
I
want
like
servants.
I like that it's set up where it's like they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, they literally can't take care of themselves at all. Which is pretty funny and messed up. Yeah. So, yeah, and then, I mean, there's some cool stuff in the tunnels, and this lady that's helping him because he reminds her of her son, and all of that.
She's like a nurse who they brought in to take care of them if they get sick or whatever, and be part of their little fucking cabal. Yeah. So that, she can, she does have to sacrifice her kid. She's like 103 years old. And she regrets it every day. And so there is like an autonomy to their decision when they're in it, because she remembers it and regrets it. So like, that was a choice of hers. It's not like she came out of it and was like, what happened? Where's my kid?
Well, and that's the only reason that our protagonist survives, is because he's giving in, and his mom is like, no, like, you gotta go.
Take care of the kid.
And then he gets a really lucky shot with his lighter,
you think?
And those creatures are like,
the speed in which those curtains catch on fire. This is the dumbest part of the movie or the show for sure, is that they catch on fire, they immediately light the whole place on fire. The two monsters immediately, I know she says the breath or something is extremely flammable, whatever. They both light on fire, and his mom lights on fire instantly, but he's released. Why is she immediately completely engulfed in flames, but he's released? Just literally makes no sense.
Maybe it's all the mothballs.
It's a tinderbox.
Aren't mothballs like super flammable?
I mean, according to the Terminator movie, he uses mothballs to make pipe bombs.
So and old people and mothballs are like a thing.
Is there a lot of mothballs down there that we saw?
No, I'm just
But no, it's just the speed in which it catches, and then if you watch them running back and forth like they don't know how to get out of there, it's like they know that place.
They like literally.
He's been there once.
I know,
right? And he knows how to get out of there immediately. But they're just like, what do I do?
He makes such a fast exit. And
That's
it's
a very
dumb.
It's a very dumb
seconds,
ending.
the whole place explodes.
It's a dumb ending. I mean, that is.
I like the ending,
so
like the story ending,
yes.
but I agree. I think that part of the ending is just like.
Why they're just running around with like chickens with their heads cut off, bumping into each other, and then he just runs right through the center of them and out of the place. Yeah. It's like. You know these tunnels better than him. You know the exit. Like, as soon as the place is engulfed,
maybe something's happening because they're on fire, and those are the things that, like, technically give them their youth back. Maybe them burning is doing something to them.
That would have been great. I mean, if they would have, because if they die, they get, like, that would have been, there you go. They would get old, right? And all of, like, they would become the age they actually are. Yeah. So if they've been doing this for 20 years or something, and they were like 80 when they came in, they'd be like 100. So they would have, like, that would have been great. I mean, they used a lot of CG in this anyways. So for them to all start going old.
Yeah.
That would have been a rad showing, and it would have made sense of why they were all like, oh my god, like as they burn, it takes the power away, and it makes them old again. Yeah, that's smart, and that's what should have happened. Them just running around like, oh my god, what's happening? We can fill in a headcanon and say that's what it is. Yeah. But we didn't see that. No. I do want to know, though, this is my last thing, and then we'll end it here. For me, you have any more to say, you can, of course, but for me, this is the last thing I want to ask. I didn't understand. Maybe I missed it. So, and we did watch it a week ago. But I don't remember hearing this at all. Why is it, number one, they don't want to leave because they just don't want to leave? They have to stay there or they don't? This isn't the full question, but is that... Because he just says, like, they have all the money. They don't need anything anymore because they have all the money so they can stay here. But do they have to?
I don't know.
Do they have to stay there in that area? Because the monsters are down there and it's like there's a certain distance you can get from them or something.
Think. I would be like, they have to stay there. But I don't know. It's not
a very nice place. Like,
no.
For rich people to live in, it should be way bigger and way more lavish than that.
I don't know. I don't think that they can, but I think that they can leave, but I think that is what's said is that they just want to stay there because it's like they don't have any need to, which is really bizarre because I feel like if you were living longer, like wouldn't you want to go out and like explore and 100%. See the world?
That's what I'm saying.
And like
I'd want to travel the world.
I mean, yeah. So I don't know, but I think that they could have left. I might be misunderstood that too, though.
And then they also make it very clear that you can only transfer over your youth from your kid to you. It has to be your child. Yeah. So this is a one-time thing, unless you got... I mean, what I would think, maybe if they did expand upon this into multiple episodes, they would be trying to bring people in to impregnate. To get kids with. So they could continue to loop this process. Right, but my question is like, they just aged naturally once again. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so this is just like a second try.
That's what I thought,
but then they just age out and die anyway. Yeah. Right? So they're only just getting an extra 40 years or something, 40, 50 years. But then they are just going to get old again. Because if they don't have kids. Yeah. So the game would be, okay, I got to get young. Then I got to fuck someone. Get them pregnant, get another kid, and then once they're like 20, or can it happen with, because it has to be willing, and you could raise the baby to be like, this is your purpose, which is horrible,
awful.
But that's, I mean, kids are so pliable, right? You can manipulate them in any way we want. And it's like, you were born to bring me life. This is your whole purpose in life, and this is like a great honor for you. And the kid can be like, yes, I can't wait. And as soon as they can make that decision, whether it's 2 or 3, whatever it is. Then they could be like, yes, of course, Daddy, I want to make you better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I guess you could loop it if you want. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are here. But I was just thinking, like, you're really selling your kid out for like another 40 years and you're just going to die of old age anyway?
I know, yeah. It's not like you're immortal.
Yeah, because I was like, are they immortal? Do they stay that age forever now as long as they stay on the premises? Because if they said that, then I would have been like, oh, okay.
I don't think they said anything like that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Because, like, that lady that helps him is, like, not ultra young. She's, like, mid-aged.
See, if I would have been on the writing staff for this one, you would have had, you and me, we would have had them turning old as he killed that thing. And then they would have had, like, kids on the premises. And they would have said, like, he's like, why are there so many kids here? And it's like, oh, that's their next offerings. Ugh, just something quick like that, and it'd be like, oh, hell no. Yeah. Right? And then at the end, it's him and all the kids running out of the place, and he's saving them from their that would
have been cool.
Right? Like, it's the next generation that, we don't owe you anything. Right? Like, it would have been more impactful if he ran out of there with a bunch of other kids that he was saving them from in the future.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
I don't know. Anyway, that's my thoughts. What do you guys think? This is a long one. I have no doubt the next one is going to be like 1/5 this long because this was supposed to be our whole thoughts of like the whole concept and everything. But there you go. That was way longer than I expected it to be. But when is that not the case, Kaylee?
And not often.
Not often. All right. Well, we'll see you in the next one. I hope. Bye.